Hi, and welcome to Chapter 9, Charismatic and Transformational Leadership. And let's see if I can advance the page here. There we go. All right. So often these charismatic leaders have a very heightened sense of who they are. They seem to have a real clear picture of the way things need to be, what their purpose is, and so forth. There's not a lot of self-doubt going on, right? And they seek to actualize their personal meaning through leadership means this is who I am, this is what I'm born to do, you have to let me do this thing. They certainly have this strong self-belief that not only they can do this, but they might be the only one who can do it. So they have this somewhat high level of emotional stability. They don't get down on themselves. They have very high self-esteem. I'm here to save the day. I'm the only one that can save the day, or I'm maybe one of the few who can. Self-efficacy, then we can solve this. With me leading, we got this, right? So trust me to lead this. We have this. And this internal locus of control, right, is that we and I can we're the captain of our own destiny. We'll figure this thing out. You think back to like Winston Churchill during the Blitz when the Nazi military was attacking England. He was never hoping the Germans would stop. It was all about we will do this and we will meet them in this. We will meet them in the skies. We will meet them on the seas. We will meet them in the beaches. We will fight them. We will fight. Never ever ever give up. Right. So it was all about what they could do to resist. Right. So certainly a very very strong internal locus of control. And charismatic leaders they seem to have very little inner conflict about what they need to do. And often they're worried about their legacy, right? So the second bullet here, charismatic leaders are driven to leave their personal mark on society, right? So not only do they want to do this thing, but they want to do this thing with them as the head. They want to know that everyone knows that they're the ones who made this happen. So sometimes there's this activist mindset. They use political and social causes as opportunities to influence change, right? There's also, never waste a good emergency or something. So they see this opportunity to make something important, and that's what they're going to use to get people motivated. So they're good at spotting these type of opportunities, and then they magnify this dissatisfaction. So this is intolerable. We must go change this. So they get everybody fired up to back them in this cause, whatever the cause might happen to be. Max Weber was the German guy who wrote a lot about bureaucracies and things like that, but he also wrote about charismatic leaders, which is kind of interesting because he wrote about bureaucracies and he did write about how there's basically no place for charismatic leaders in a bureaucracy. But basically, certainly a charismatic leader can single-handedly visualize a new mission or a new course of action and get people to move. I remember in the 70s when Chrysler Automotive was going down the tubes, they hired the president of Ford to come there, a guy named Lee Iacocca, who was known as the father of the Mustang, and he single-handedly got all of Chrysler, or most of the people he never met, but he got the company moving again, got them moving forward, and he saved them from bankruptcy. It was an amazing job of leadership. So they compel the potential followers to act because they believe the leader is extraordinary. Again, hey, we're at Chrysler. We got the father of the Mustang here. We know we're going out of business if we keep going like we are. So let's do what he says. They perform acts of heroism. In this case, Iacocca had asked the union at Chrysler to give up a bunch of things to help save money for the company. And they said, well, man, you're here getting big pay. So he said, I'll tell you what, next year I'll work for $1. Right, in stock options. So if the company doesn't improve, if we don't save the company, I only make $1. But if the company goes up a lot, I could cash in my stock options. You won't care because the company making lots of money and all your jobs will be saved. Right? People thought that was pretty heroic, and of course it worked. He was able to cash in his stock options, made tens of millions of dollars on them, so that he can inspire and build confidence. It has this powerful aura that people just sort of buy into. That's kind of the tricky part. Between differences between charismatic and non-charismatic, right? The charismatic tend to have a dissatisfaction with the status quo. This needs to change. They compel people with a vision. This is what we need to change to. They're going to use unconventional strategies. I know we couldn't make that change before, but something is new, and here's what's new. So this is how I plan to make it work. Right? And then they're not just pie in the sky. They have a realistic assessment of what it takes to pull this off. So they do come up with a plan, and a plan that people will think will work and try to make this thing happen. So certainly the followers, they trust in their leader's belief, they buy into it. They think of their beliefs are similar between the followers and the leaders. That's why you'll see politicians trying to act like the voters, right, to get them to trust them more. then all this leads to an acceptance of higher and challenging goals. People start thinking up, maybe we can do this thing that we thought was impossible before. People will identify with a leader. I want to be them. I'm this person. I'm in this person's camp. I'm a follower of so and so, and emulate them. I'm going to act like them, dress like them, cut my hair like them, talk like them, use words like they use, and so forth, right? And this leads to sort of an unconditional acceptance of the leader. That's why when outsiders will find the leader, I don't know, they're doing something that other people consider wrong. They've had a personal flaw. They've done something that's not approved or whatever, and the followers will turn on their leader now, and then the followers don't. And that's because that's a trait of charismatic leaders. When people buy in, they tend to buy in pretty much all the way. And so when the leader does something that even the followers don't like, the followers like, yeah, but still they're the best one to get us there, so we're going to be their followers. So they have strong affection for the leader. They're emotionally involved with the mission. It would take a lot for them to pull back from the mission. Right, so all that leads to this unquestioning loyalty, right? This kind of slide kind of explains a lot about why people back some of the leaders they do and keep backing them after there's all kind of bad news about, shady deals and bad relationships or whatever it is with these leaders, and some of their followers with them literally through thick and thin. I don't think this graphic is in the book, but it's a good one of what you might see charismatic leaders do. And when you write when you think about charismatic leaders, right, I'm going to give you a VoiceThread prompt that talks about what you want to do for or analyze charismatic leaders, and this is some of the things you should think about. They have superb communication skills. They're very self-confident, high risk orientation. They're not afraid of taking risks because they're trying to do things no one has done before, right? They certainly empower others. Self-promoting. Look, I'm the right person for this job. Follow me. I'm the right person. Minimum internal conflict. Let's go. Let's go. High energy, high action. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Right? They inspire trust in their followers, and mostly they use their communication skills to sell this vision. Right? Follow me, and I will take you to this new place, whatever that happens to be. Give me a double-edged sword. This charisma. Right? We've seen transformational leaders that are all about, or charismatic leaders, all about self-glorification. Right, as in, this is all about me. It's not about the cause. Right, so we think certainly have to be careful in, are you a member of this cause, or are you following this leader, all right, because he's a leader? Some of the evil charismatic leaders through history, people like Hitler, right? We think of those as being in this category. So if a personalized charismatic leader is a person who's thinking about themselves a lot, they tend to be this very dominant type, Machiavellian, narcissistic personality. It's all about me. It's all about me and what I do. And they will use rewards and punishment to manipulate and control followers. As opposed to a socialized charismatic leader, they're much more an empowering personality, and they pursue organizational driven goals, and they promote feelings of empowerment, personal growth, right? And equal participation of followers. So they're asking for help. They don't want it to be all about them. It's only all about them from the standpoint that somebody needs to lead to make this thing happen. So they're willing to do that, but they really want other people to accept these goals. A new word. So transformational leaders. We've talked about charismatic and transformational leaders tend to have a lot of charismatic qualities. So they tend to try to change the status quo with a compelling vision, right? So these are people who have big changes in what an organization can and should do. Now, a new term is a transactional leader, right? A transaction. They maintain stability, so they like the status quo, but they get things done through a regular economic and social exchanges to achieve specific goals. So they're a tit-for-tat type of leader. So this came out from studies of politicians a long time ago with a guy named Burr, and it was basically, vote for me and I'll reduce your taxes. Vote for me and I'll build you a school. Vote for me and I'll get you better jobs or protect the country or whatever it happens to be, right? Those are transactional leaders, right? Transformational leader would say all about the vision, right? Vote for me and I'll take us to a place we've never been before. It'll be a better world. We'll do this, we'll do that, and so forth, right? So that's a transformational leader. Transactional leaders are all about the deal, right? Do something for me and I'll do something for you. Right, so here we have. So research studies have consistently revealed that transformational leadership is positively related to individual level, group, and organizational performance. So what we mean by is if you transformational leaders really can make a person and a whole group respond well. So some of the ways they do that, the way we measure transformational leadership, and I worked on this in my dissertation, is we have these 4 I's, and I'll define those in a minute. Idealized influence, inspiration, motivation, individual consideration, and intellectual stimulation. Right? And we see how, in terms of this Bass leadership model, Bass was the first one who came up with transactional transformational leadership. We have transformational here, and next to it is transactional. Transformational is all about the vision and change. Transactional is do something for me, I'll do something for you. And laissez-faire is just a lack of leadership. And when that happens, we don't get much going on. Actually, we usually have people either sliding backwards, or we have other people trying to step up. And it's not uncommon that some leaders will do both, some transactional, some transformational. All right, so let's go back to 4 I's. Right, so idealized influence is charisma. I want to be like my leader. I like my leader. I'm proud of my leader, and so I'm going to let my leader influence me. I sort of idolize them. Okay, and that's how we think of a charismatic leader. Also, there's inspirational motivation. So this transformational leader has sold me on this vision, this thing we're going to try to do. It's difficult, it's challenging. No one's ever done it before. It'll be a great thing to do, and so they sell me on it. So they get me all fired up to do that through this vision. Right? And then the factor 3 is the intellectual stimulation. They're going to challenge me to do new things, and me, not let's as a group, but I need your help. I need you to figure this out for me. They're going to challenge me to do special things I've never done before, so I feel really empowered, and I really like that challenge, and I respond to it because I believe in the vision. Right? And I trust the leader to tell me I can do it because they have idealized influence. Right? And then factor 4, individualized consideration. The leader sees me as, even though they never met me, they see me as valuable. They see me as one of the type thing, and they're willing to give me individualized attention or individualized training, or maybe I have an emergency and I need to go do something, so I'll get individualized consideration. So it's not just, hey, you're on the team, you're one of many, and we treat you all the same kind of thing, and people really appreciate that. As opposed to transformation or transactional, I mentioned, right, do something for me and I'll do something, vote for me and I'll cut your taxes. Here's contingent reward, which is exactly that, right? Vote for me and I'll cut your taxes. And we see those kind of things. And they tend to also have another factor of management by exception. So management by exception is this: when things are going fine, I leave you alone to do your thing. When things aren't going fine, then I need to do something about it, so I'll step in and take corrective action, right? And those are broke down into to active and passive. I think I have that on the next slide. Well, here's our definitions of the 4 I's. We've gone through those. For the management by exception, right? Leaders involved in corrective criticism, negative feedback, or negative reinforcement. It also could be positive reinforcement. But when they see things going wrong, they decide to take in. But there's 2 ways to do that. One is active. So the leader watches the followers closely to identify mistakes, rule violations, people who aren't keeping up, people aren't getting done what they're supposed to do, and then the leader steps in. So the active is the leader's actively watching and then stepping in as required. Passive is the leader intervenes only after standards have not been met or actions or problems have arisen. So the first one, I'm watching. If I see them struggling, I step in and help. The second one, after they failed, I'm there to swoop in and see what's wrong and take some action after the fact they've already failed. You can guess which one gets better results. Right? The active one, I can do mid-course corrections and help them along the way, and maybe they don't fail because we've caught it early and we've stepped in. Passive, I'm going to sit back and wait till the numbers roll in, and then if they're good, fine. If they're not, I'm going to dole out punishment. Right? You can guess that active has much better positive results on the organization, both in terms of morale and output. So when you become the leader, when you become the manager, right, that's the way to go. You have to keep your eyes and ears open, keep your finger on the pulse, and when you see people struggling and you think they might need help, that's when you investigate to see if you need help or not. That doesn't mean you help everybody all the time, because some people need to struggle so that they get better, but keep that in mind. And don't hide in your office and wait till things get so bad you can't ignore it anymore. Then you got to deal with a big problem as opposed to maybe a smaller problem. And then laissez-faire again is just that absence of leader, let things ride. There's no feedback, there's little effort, so the followers tend to get kind of disgruntled, or maybe a lot disgruntled, and they don't really like the style very much. So a little more comparison between transformational and transactional. Transformational, again, inspires followers to go beyond their self-interest and act for the good of the organization. There's that vision. If you help us, we can do this grand thing, and you can be part of this grand thing, whatever it happens to be. Right? Leaders are, here's the I's, right? They're influential, they're inspirational, and so forth. It serves to change the status quo by a lot. We're going after some sweeping change here. It's going to change both followers and the organizations, right? We're not just going to try to work around the edges here. We're going to change things wholesale across the board. We're going to create and share knowledge across the group. We're going to emphasize the importance of group values and focus on collective interests. Look, we can do this big thing if we all work together on this thing. As opposed to transactional leadership, caters to the self-interest. Again, vote for me, I'll lower your taxes. Leaders are task and reward oriented. We have specific contractual arrangements with the followers, right? It generally does enforce stability in the organization, and you can make incremental changes and improvements in an organization. So this isn't a terrible thing. It's just not as effective as transformational leader. So despite these differences, many leaders do both, right? And there's a lot of studies, and a book didn't really refer to it too much, but here's why. If I start out as a new leader in a group and I have this big, what I think is a compelling vision for this huge thing, and we're going to buck the trend and we're going to take on this huge challenge, if I do that before I establish a level of trust with my followers, with my organization, it's going to be difficult to get buy-in. It's going to be difficult to get some of them on board. Many are not gonna, what's this new guy talking all about? I don't know what's going on here. I don't trust them to make the decision. I am not on board because we haven't established a relationship. So a lot of times what new leaders will do, will use transactional means. Do this for me and I'll do this for you. Here's a goal. Meet the goal, you get a reward. You're like, oh, hey, I'm getting rewards. The new person said if I did this, there'd be good news, and there is. So I'm starting to trust them. I kind of like them as a leader. I'm starting to follow them. So they develop this level of trust between the leaders and the followers. It gives the leaders more time to figure out who the best followers are and give them key roles, and it gives the followers time to establish his relationship with the leader. So then the leader can start using things like idealized influence and intellectual stimulation and those type things. So generally there's this morphing of transformational into transactional as the leader develops a rapport and a relationship with their group. I think that sounds pretty accurate. There's a lot of research indicate that's what goes on, and been my experience in the workforce, right? That's exactly what goes on, right, with new leaders. If you try to go for too much too fast, you don't get anything, so you need to have some time to develop a relationship, and then you can move more towards the transformational relationship. Not that everybody does. Some people never get past the transactional stuff. They just have no idea. So the transformational process, right? This is right out of Organizational Change 101, right? You have to make a compelling case for change. Step one, right? Step one is not tell them what the change is. Step one is tell them why there needs to be a change, right? And then, so we need to make a change. Step two is, here's this shared vision. Here's the thing we're going to change to. And then step three is how we're going to get there. So we need to have those key things. The need for the change, then what is the change we're going to have, and then how are we going to get there. Right, in that order. Right, if you take them out of order, it doesn't work because people lose interest. They don't think it's going to work, and they don't pay attention. All right, and servant leadership. Servant leadership is really a kind of leadership that business students don't hear very much. It's fairly new in terms of leadership studies. And we think of that servant leadership here as the leadership that transcends self-interest, that serves the needs of the others. So basically, the leader works for the followers. They emphasize patience, kindness, humility, right? You kind of get an idea. This is sort of based on the Gandhi model, right? The leader is there to support the group. It calls for the highest level of selflessness, right? Gandhi used to, when he was trying to get India grows a lot of cotton, and back in the old days, they would ship it to England, and then England would make a lot of profit weaving it into textiles and selling it all around the globe. And so Gandhi tried to get them to and then they would sell it back to India, as a matter of fact. And so Gandhi was trying to get them to start their own weaving industry and textile industry in India. So every day of week, it's a specific day, I can't remember what it was, he would sit there and weave textiles, sit there in cloth all day long, right? And people would have meetings and they talk to him and he'd nod, yes, 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 okay. But he'd be running his little weaving loom all day long. And the whole idea was, look, I can do it. I can fit it in my schedule so you people can't do it, right? That's the idea of a servant leader. They have very much a strong teamwork orientation. They might be the leader and they're setting the vision and all of that, but there's this huge support of the team. And as a matter of fact, it's the leader supporting the team, not so much the other way around. And there's more decentralized power and decision-making abilities within the group. This Stewart type leader assumes there's an equality, and he assumes the followers can make a lot of decisions for themselves. right? And the organization designs its own rewards, so it means more to the organization. Right, so we see some of the things we see in a servant leader. They have to be very good listeners. They got to help others because the others are the people who are going to have to make it go. They have to earn, they have to keep people's trust, right? And it is very much this self-interest thing. And so they help others, right? You're their coach, you're their mentor, right? Even more than their leader, and you're helping them discover their inner spirit, their inner leader. And when they stumble, you're there to pick them up and guide them and help them get better. And so this is not the leader who's out front charging the hill, right? This is just the opposite. This is more like the mentor who's in the background, giving people suggestions what they need to do and how they have to move forward. Right. So there's very much this service over self-interest approach. The hallmark is their desire to help others. That was certainly Gandhi's and others' goals for things like that. And again, the servant leader doesn't impose their will. The group picks it, right? Which is kind of an interesting approach. So that is we don't see that much in the world of politicians. We don't see that much in the world of anything, but certainly is an interesting leadership style. And to me, a lot of parents do this, right? A lot of parents do this when their kids, they're the ones that are behind their kids. They're bucking them up. They're trying to push them out there. They're trying to get their kids the right lessons. It's more important that the kids be successful than the parents get credit for it and so forth, right? So you could probably give it a different name rather than servant leadership, more like parent leadership or something like that. But I like this approach from this standpoint. It works in certain situations. It would not have worked for Winston Churchill when the Germans were attacking England during World War II, right? It had to be charismatic. It had to be, we will win. It had to be based on confidence and leadership and all of that. They did not have the time or the right circumstances to use this kind of leadership. But if you're really trying to grow your followers and have them solve it themselves and all that, right, this is a very, very interesting model to think over, and I hope you kind of carry this around with you as you watch how people solve that. All right, well, that concludes Chapter 9.